Top 10 takeaways. Yes. Off we go, starting with a public service announcement. That's right. It's a public service announcement. A public service announcement for everybody. Fuck Romeo Dobbs and fuck Tank Bigsby. So fuck Tank Bigsby, fuck Romeo Dobbs. That's the public service announcement that I have for you today. That's it. That's all I got for you. That's it. Those are the takeaways. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. Whatever it is. That's it. No. But we'll get into that, especially with the Tank Bigsby thing. We're going to get into the Tank Bigsby. Oh, the Tank Bigsby thing. Ooh, yes. Yes, I have thoughts on the Tank Bigsby thing, but also I have something else for you. I have something else. We did some good work on the Starter Stream show, and we talked a lot about Jaguars players on that show and why to sit those players, and that's something else we're going to talk about today. I have tightened this show up. This is going to be just half an hour, and it's going to be 10 takeaways. I did the math. I said, okay, we were doing 20 takeaways. We've been trying to do 10, actually doing 20, and it's an hour. And the audience says, well, could you get this down to a half an hour, please? You know, I don't have that kind of time. Can you streamline the show? And I said, sure, we'll try it. I'll get my absolute favorite 10. There's 10 takeaways that aren't even discussed in the show. They're on the cutting room floor. They'll never be heard. They're great takeaways, but we had to streamline the show to get to half an hour. And then after the show, we have the Mind of Mansion program coming right up. It's a Monday. It's a special Monday Mind of Mansion with Dan Williamson. So that'll be fun. That'll be interesting to talk to him about everything that's going on. There's a lot to go on. So some of these topics we will then carry over and talk with Dan in the Mind of Mansion. And then some of those things that maybe didn't make it into the Top 10 Takeaway show, make it into that show. So just stay tuned. I think that's the thing. If you're listening live, you just stay tuned. You just stay tuned. So I have 10 tight takeaways for you. But before we get into that even, we should run through the injuries. So we have Jordan Mason with a sprained AC joint. We have George Kittle. He was, left the game, missed some snaps, came back. Right? DJ Moore had an eye injury, came back. Baker Mayfield had a rib injury, came back. Ladd McConkey passed the concussion protocol somehow, came back. But then we had, Travis Etienne with a hamstring, Marvin Harrison with a concussion, Drake May, there was a sack fumble, and he was banged up as the broadcasters like to say. Chris Olave left with a concussion. Dallas Goedert with a hamstring. And if you're wondering, like, why was Dallas Goedert not more involved? Well, this is why. Why was Chris Olave not more involved? This is why. This is why when you see a lot of Bub Means in there, that's the reason. Okay. Elijah Moore left with a rib injury, sadly. Jerome Ford, hamstring injury, sadly. Tajay Spears, hamstring, yet even more touches coming for Tony Pollard, one of the great zero RB picks of this season. Quentin Johnston left with an ankle injury. That just means more targets coming for our man, Ladd McConkey, one of the great buy low receivers. There is one other buy low receiver I want to talk about today. That's an even better buy low in Dynasty, where Ladd McConkey is probably a better buy low in seasonal leagues. They're both great buy lows. They're both rookies. Hayden Hurst left with a groin injury. Who cares? What I care about is we have Dontavian Wicks leaving with a shoulder injury. I mean, what could have been with Dontavian? Everyone was loving this idea of Dontavian Wicks. He was just every week on Underdog, just rising and rising. The ADP was just this balloon, this helium balloon, rising through the air. You could never get him. He was just always, I thought I could get him in round 16. Now he's in round 15. I thought it was round 15. Now it's round 14. Now it's round 4. Now it's round 13. Could never get Dontavian Wicks in best ball. And then he had these 2 weeks where it was like, hey, this is his time to shine, and then nothing, right? Now it was just a dud week, standard issue, variance-based dead week for a receiver last week. Now this week, shoulder injury. The more concerning injury is this Jaden Reed ankle injury. It's something to monitor. So these are injuries to monitor. What does it all mean? Was it if we're starting the show with fuck Romeo Dobbs, and then we have 2 ankle injuries or 2 injuries of some seriousness in Green Bay, what does that mean? Well, that can only mean one thing. Bo Melton season, Bo Melton season, Bo Melton season, Bo Melton season. This is called conviction. You have conviction in players that have great talent in great situations that are underappreciated, and Bo Melton is the quintessential example of that in the NFL at this time at the wide receiver position. So he is going to be my sneaky ad of the week. It may not actually be that sneaky. If news comes out later this week that this ankle injury, the shoulder injury for Wicks and Reed are serious, then it's going to be obvious. But yet not. Because, it's Christian Watson. It's Romeo Dobbs. It can never be obvious that you pick up Bo Melton. It's never an obvious thing. It's always a super sneaky straight draw on the board with Bo Melton. So that's your bonus take. That's not part of the top 10. That's more related to the kicking off with a summary of injuries to monitor and to note from Sunday. Bo Melton. Just Bo Melton, Bo Melton, Bo Melton. And takeaway number 10, we'll go in order from 10 to 1. This was not the week to start Brian Thomas. We knew Brian Thomas was not going to hit this week. This was obvious. This was obvious on many levels. And on the Starter Stream show that I do every Sunday morning at 8 a.m., I'm up. I'm up, baby. I am up for Starter Stream. There it is. Starter Stream on YouTube. It's not a podcast because you can't turn it around fast enough. It's just a streaming show on Twitch and Facebook, and maybe I remember to go live on Instagram. Maybe I don't. I tried to go live on Instagram. Something happened with the stream key today. I couldn't go live on Instagram with top 10 takeaways. I haven't been live on Instagram with top 10 takeaways since week 3 for either forgetful reasons or technical reasons. So if we had more engagement on Instagram, maybe I would give a shit. Maybe I would care a little bit. I don't. Okay. So we said we have Brian Thomas has a lot of problems. There's enough problems with Brian Thomas this week that you don't have to start him. And then most of the advice was, okay, you're going to bench Brian Thomas in this scenario, Okay, there's a scenario where you play Brian Thomas just for the upside. But he has Jalen Johnson. He has a Jalen Johnson problem and an Evan Ingram problem. See, the Evan Ingram problem's not discussed. But you have a target earner coming in, a guy that's coming in with 8-9 targets a game last year. And Brian Thomas is better. He's barely played with him. So, of course, when you have a true target earner enter the offense, the law of the conservation of targets dictates that there will just be fewer targets for everyone. That's Christian Kirk, and that's Brian Thomas. So he has equal parts. Okay, it's equally the fault of Jalen Johnson and Evan Ingram. That's why Brian Thomas dudded out. Brian Thomas is not going to be the breakthrough, breakaway, league-winning wide receiver that you were hoping he was going to be. That's just not going to happen. The Jaguars' offense is also problematic. He will be a guy that you can start more like you start Darnell Mooney, a guy you can start with confidence in the flex position in that he has a spike week in his range of outcomes, in particular when the matchup is good. But there's no guarantees. You're going to be leaning into incredible variance with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Gabriel Davis in that offense, plus Trevor Lawrence being bad. It makes it very tricky. It's a very tricky thing to do. You can't just start Brian Thomas every week and not think about it. I just want to make that clear. That's a takeaway that we knew. The beauty is it's a takeaway that we gave you Sunday morning that was then reinforced during the game, and now we're giving it again on Monday, which feels great. Takeaway number 9. Joe Mixon is a warrior. I mean, Joe Mixon was playing through a high ankle sprain. I just want to make sure that's very clear. This wasn't something that healed in the last few weeks. Right? We talked about exactly what happens, the mechanics of a high ankle sprain, what it means to the interchange of the ankle and the fibula and tibula, and how that gets chipped and broken and strained. And it is not something that just heals in 2 or 3 weeks. He's playing through pain, and he's playing incredibly well. That is a very important thing to note. Whenever you have these veteran players that are true gladiators, and they come through first week back from an injury and give you 20-plus fantasy points, it is important to us, it is imperative that we tip our caps to those individuals. We'll get a cap. I have a cap here, right? We're going to tip the cap. This is a tip of the cap, tipping of the cap to Joe Mixon. He deserves our respect. Tank Dell, finally, right? He gave us the spike-ish week. We got the spike-ish week from Tank Dell. He got there. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. And Stefon Diggs as well. So it's beautiful when the running back and the 2 top 2 receivers, when you score 40 points, that's how that works, is the receivers do the work early, the running back does the work in the second half, and then they all get there, right? 40 points, hey! We'll talk to Dan Williamson on the Mind of Mansion show about this, but Stefon Diggs, he loves Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs was only 30 years old. You realize the kind of giant, huge, mega seasons that receivers of all different types, whether it be Jerry Rice, whether it be Andre Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, there's been so many big, huge, hairy spike weeks and spike seasons delivered by 30-year-olds. It's not that old. Like, he was winning on the outside when he was young. Now, what is he? He's like a Larry Fitzgeraldian. He's a Fitzgeraldian slot receiver. He's a volume slot receiver. Of course, that's what Stefon Diggs was going to become in his 30s, and that's exactly what he's become in a high-volume offense. How is this guy not a screaming buy in all formats? And he's been a buy all season. Just buy Texans. That's what it is. Just buy Texans, not named Dalton Schultz. And can we just be done with Zach Moss? I mean, I think we've done enough, right? I think we've done enough allowing Zach Moss to try to earn touches, and he's done so little this year. And we know that Chase Brown is a flawed player. He's fundamentally flawed. He's going to miss an assignment. He's going to fumble. But guess what? It wasn't even Chase Brown that fumbled in week 6. It was actually Zach Moss. And so you had Zach Moss leading the touches. And then, what's happening? Oh, now Zach Moss has fumbled. Wait, they keep going back to Chase Brown. Is Chase Brown for another series? Is Chase Brown for another series? This is what I feel with my daughter in her soccer career, right? Where she was Chase Brown, and she would get in there, but they would pull her off, and then maybe 40%, right, of the plays of the minutes she would get. Now you look up and you're like, oh, they're not taking her off. Oh, they're not taking her off. Oh, I think she was in for like 60% of the minutes. And you look up, this is what happened with Chase Brown. Enough already. Zach Moss is a zero to just move on. Right, the whole case for Zach Moss was, well, we don't know what these NFL teams are going to do. We've seen them lean into these between the tackles grinders for an entire season, especially if it's a prolific offense. You got to get some Zach Moss, and you want to get exposure to Chase Brown. You want to get exposure to both. That's good. You want that. That's fine. But now it's been decided. Chase Brown is better. Chase Brown's actually giving you the ball security that Zach Moss isn't. Enough already. Like I would just say, as it relates to Zach Moss and Chase Brown, enough. Look at Chase Brown. Look at this guy. He's like Darrington Evans if Darrington Evans decided to commit himself to football and become a good football player. That's what he is. It's great. It's great. So just lean into Chase Brown. He did score, well. He got there this week, so he was a very useful fantasy asset this week. Most of your league mates are going to see that the touches are trending in his direction, but there's still a buy high window with Chase Brown, and I love the buy high window on Chase Brown right now. And I have 7 more. I have 7 more takeaways, and we'll get into it after these words from the Podfather about the projections which helped lead to great decision-making this week. Oh, every week I'm answering these start-sit questions on Sunday morning. I go to the weekly rankings on playerprofiler.com just to make sure that my instincts are correct, and sometimes they're not. And guess what? More often than not, I go with the projections. You may not feel great about starting Daniel Jones or Wan'Dale Robinson, but the projections say, hey, that's the move. It may not feel right, but you use those projections to get it right. That's the power of the Player Profiler system. It's Evan Ringler, it's Bradley Stalder, it's Theo Greminger, of course, it's Billy Muzio making these rankings possible. The season rankings, so you know who to pick up, who to trade for. The Dynasty rankings are part of this. The offensive line rankings from Dan Fornick, one of the best in the business. Then we get our cornerback rankings, which show which corners are matched up with which wide receivers. And now, in collaboration with the IDP show, we have IDP rankings. Did you know that? Did you? So go to playerprofiler.com, use promo code PODFATHER. Get you 25% off the player rankings package right now at playerprofiler.com. Enjoy! Takeaway number 7, the Drake May era matters, right? Drake May was prolific. He's taking big hits. He's running for 40-plus yards. This guy's athletic. That's the thing about Drake May. Don't forget he's also athletic. That's why he's best comparable on Player Profiler to Josh Allen. Don't forget that. A more polished Josh Allen? Yes, please. The question is, well, who's his favorite receiver? Is it going to be a shower narrative with the fellow rookie Jalen Polk? No. Demario Douglas, 9 targets, 92 yards, a touchdown. Polk went 1 for 4 for 4 yards. It's the Demario Douglas show. Another buy high, Demario Douglas. Oh, baby. This is what we've been talking about. Get these Patriots in preparation for the Drake May era. Hunter Henry, he got there for a tight end, 13 fantasy points. That's a windfall, right? And don't drop Antonio Gibson. 17 touches for Antonio Gibson. He's explosive. Just remember, this is why we have Player Profiler. It's good to remember who the running back named Antonio Gibson is. He's a big-time playmaker. Very explosive, very good player. Okay, and it's going to happen for him. Okay, the Patriots signed him because they like him. Don't forget that, right? Go back to him. Don't drop him. Don't trade him away. Keep him on the roster. We don't know how serious this Ramondre Stevenson injury is. We'll see. We'll find out together. Okay. Takeaway number 6. Oh, we're getting there, right? The Travis Etienne role is the new Rashee Rice role. Remember, Juju's coming in. Juju got the high volume Rashee Rice role. That means Juju's an incredible buy. Well, we'll see, right? D'Ernest Johnson got the Travis Etienne role. And what do we know about the Jaguars? They stink. What does that mean? They're going to be coming from behind. So why do we have the between the tackles grinder with 0 catches? Right? Tank Bigsby, 0 catches last week. This was another one of these start-sit questions. Bigsby. I was like, no Bigsby. Please, no Bigsby. What do you think's going to happen? Think they're going to beat the Bears? The Bears are surging. Get out of here. Bigsby. So many of you overspent on Bigsby. Shame on you. Shame on you. Right? The big question was, do you spend up on Bigsby last week or Tracy? And we said you spend up on Tracy. We put all your fab on Tracy and not Bigsby. And as it turns out, it's D'Ernest Johnson, who's actually better positioned to score fantasy points with no Travis Etienne. Ha-ha! Ha-ha! And these 4th-round rookies, man, like these day 3 rookie running backs, Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy. Then you go even deeper in the draft, right? You go Kamani Vidal, Isaac Garendo, right? Bucky Irving got blown off the field by his own team. His own team blew out the Saints to such a degree that they had to play Sean Tucker because they were up 30 and they didn't want Bucky Irving to get hurt. That's where Bucky Irving is now. I mean, what a world, right? And when I look at Sean Tucker, an undrafted athletic player, it tells me everything I need to know about zero RB, right? So if I say, why zero RB, or you said, I was talking to my buddy and I was trying to explain why zero RB, and it devolved into this hour-long conversation. No. Zero RB should boil down to one name. Just say this one name. Say Sean Tucker. That's it. Just say Sean Tucker. The guy's super strong, super athletic. He's like the new Jerick McKinnon. This is who he is. Undrafted, runs a 4.4, super strong upper body. That's Jerick McKinnon. That's Sean Tucker. Is Bucky Irving and Rachaad White better than him? Yeah, sure, but this is the running back position, and this is why we don't overspend on the running back position in fantasy drafts, because then you could take advantage of the Sean Tuckers as they come available. The fact that that's even a possibility, that a running back can come in the second half and have like 15-plus fantasy points, that's not something a wide receiver can do. That is a function of the running back position. So that's why the running back position has to be valued and drafted differently in fantasy football. It's really that simple, because you could just go on and on and on and on. And like, some of these things are just very obvious, right? Tyrone Tracy was just the most obvious, right? Tyrone Tracy, this guy's best comparable to Rachaad White, right? And Devin Singletary is a functional running back that does the right things that coaches love. The problem is he runs to contact and he can't evade contact very well. And those players tend to pick up more injuries. And then that opens up opportunity for Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy looks like a league winner. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. Do you disagree with this? Because Tyrone Tracy gave you what Saquon would have given you. Like, if this was Saquon Barkley, he would have given you the same thing that Tyrone Tracy gave you this week. We're talking about 22 fantasy points on an 89% opportunity share, contributing with touchdowns, with catches. He was the leading receiver for the team. This is Saquon Barkley all over again. Now, it's not quite Saquon Barkley, but he's a little bit less than Barkley across the board, but it's like discount Barkley. This was one of the master strokes of Joe Schoen. Even though he's not a very good GM, he did play the running back position picture perfect. Just a mint free agency and NFL draft management of the running back position by the Giants. And then we have to talk about Kamani Vidal. Kamani Vidal comes in. Kamani Vidal's good, right? Who doesn't like Kamani Vidal? Look at Kamani Vidal. I just showed my notes. Look at that. You guys saw my notes. I'm not doing this extemporaneously. I have notes. Oh my God, my notes have been exposed on the stream. This is why you watch live. You might actually get to see my notes. We'll leave them up. We'll leave the notes up. This is live. This is a live broadcast. This is how it works. This is what happens. Now we've got Kamani Vidal on the screen, and he is very similar to Isaiah Pacheco. And I tweeted this. I said, hey, Jim Harbaugh seems to be excited about the right kind of guy. This is AFC West, the new Isaiah Pacheco. J.K. Dobbins, will he sustain himself for the rest of the season? Unlikely. Kamani Vidal lurking, already had a touchdown, 40 yards on 2 catches. Kamani Vidal involved in the passing game? Oh, my God. Oh, my God, is that sexy. Oh, my God. And guess what else? We had Isaac Guerrero. He has incredible athleticism. This is Raheem Mostert after a Mario Mushroom. This is the Mario Mushroom Raheem Mostert. That's what we're looking at with Isaiah. Isaac Guerrero is very, even though he's got the cool shaved eyebrow, this guy knows he's good at sports. And then he gets in there with this injury, which we're not sure how serious it's supposed to be. I know that Jordan Mason's supposed to be back, but who the hell's Jordan Mason? So permission to get excited about Isaac Garendo, Kamani Vidal, Vidal Sassoon. Of course, Tyrone Tracy. It's on. It is so on. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about these running backs, all rookies, and all have the potential to be league winners. When we look back and go, oh, wow, this was the... And I didn't even talk about Bucky Irving because we forget about him because he only played half the game. Still gave you a nice start, 15-plus fantasy points. There's another one. It's just like Irving, Tracy, Vidal, Garendo. In this MVP race is suddenly a ball game. Caleb Williams. I mean, all hail. And can we please stop with the coach analysis? I understand that you all want to talk about coaches, and especially the broadcasters and these fantasy analysts. They want to lead with the coach analysis, and they want to give credit to the coach and then also blame the coach. And it's like, enough already. I get it. Shane Waldron is average. Okay. How much does that actually impact Caleb Williams? Turns out, not that much. Not that much. Coaches matter on the margins. That's the big takeaway from this. And that after 19 fantasy points, 24 fantasy points, now 36 fantasy points, we have 3 impressive fantasy point performances in the last 4 weeks for Caleb Williams. Suddenly we have a ball game for Rookie of the Year. So that's exciting. And just enough. Enough with the coach worse. Arthur Smith. Stop it! Aren't you happy what you're getting from Justin Fields? Are you not impressed with Justin Fields? Can you imagine a scenario where Justin Fields could be any better? Justin Fields was being drafted at the end of drafts in every format, even Dynasty. People were done. It was over, right? And now he's given you the absolute best case scenario. Actually, a scenario that no one could have ever imagined was in his range of outcomes. So enough. And this was one of the coaches. This is one of the coaches that everyone was piling on to. I don't run to the coach and give him credit when the team succeeds. And I don't run to pull the rug out from under the coach when the team is failing. Because it's the players that actually determine the performance on the field. I know that sounds insane and crazy. How is that? That's counterintuitive. The players with the ball are doing all the work? Yeah, it's true. Yes, that's how it works. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so. Oh, I wonder if anybody saw this. I did the cheat tactic, unintentionally cheat. It's an unintentional cheat that I did. There was actually 11 top 10 takeaways. And I started by giving a takeaway at the beginning that I said didn't count as a takeaway. So now we're up to 12. So I have 2 takeaways here that were classified as number 5. So we're going to combine them because it's the same team. Right? It's the same team. So if we love Caleb Williams and we're all in on Caleb Williams, that means you necessarily have to be all in on Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is the buy low of my lifetime, especially in Dynasty. He and DJ Moore had the same fantasy output, 6 fantasy points. Because why? The Bears kept the ball in the middle of the field because Jacksonville has the worst safeties. So it made sense. Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, they thrived. There will be other weeks where the perimeter corners are weak, and that's when a Odunze and a DJ Moore will pop off, right? Like they did against the Colts. That is what's going to happen. Okay? Look at Rome Odunze's profile. He's best comparable to Justin Jefferson. 80th percentile workout metrics across the board, and you might say, oh, well, the college dominator was a little bit low, but we can click on this little menu at the top. I don't know if you know about this. There's a little menu you can click at the top next to the search on a player page and jump down to college stats, And voila, you find out, oh, wait, he had over 1,500 yards because he was sharing a field with both Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. And he had an 18 yards per reception with 13 touchdowns, and he contributed on special teams. Oh, my God. This guy's exactly who I want. He's much better than Marvin Harrison. It's Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze. Marvin Harrison isn't even in their class. Now, I know Marvin Harrison sustained a concussion. Regardless, he's been the most volatile, touchdown-dependent receiver we've seen all year. Marvin Harrison is a sell. Rome Odunze is a buy. Now, we're getting there. We're doing this has got to be the most efficient top 10 takeaways show of my life. Takeaway number 3. We're all the way down to number 3. Brock Bowers should be the tight end 1 in all formats. Just based on targets, okay? This year, he has a 12-target game, a 10-target game, a 9-target game, and an 8-target game. Devontae Adams could return, but some of those games were with Devontae Adams. I don't think it matters. Right now, we have Jacoby Myers is hurt. So it's just going to be, even when it's Devontae Adams healthy and playing and not agitating for a trade, it's still, it's fine. You're always absolutely fine, especially if you're on one of these teams that's oftentimes in comeback mode, as one of 2 players who is commanding the majority of the targets. Even if it is a true alpha like Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers will get whatever target share he has the ability to earn. And that means like 8 to 10 targets a game. No other tight end is doing this. Now, George Kittle is giving you these big boom weeks, but he's doing it mostly with touchdowns. Bowers doing it with targets. That I trust more. Those are the top 2 tight ends in fantasy. We'll see what Kelsey does tonight, but those are right now the top 2 tight ends in fantasy. For me. Bowers getting there with targets, I think, is more important and more valuable than Kittle getting there with touchdowns. So for me, it's Brock Bowers in all formats as your tight end 1. And sadly, the Detroit defense is too good. It's really hurting Amon-Ra St. Brown. What's Amon-Ra St. Brown's problem? The Detroit defense. That's the problem. Right? There's a problem for Dak Prescott, clearly. We'll get to him in a minute. But the defense is too good. And Jahmyr Gibbs is still the RB1. Okay? In a game that was a total blowout, that was David Montgomery game script, right? The ideal David Montgomery game script. Even in that game, Montgomery and Gibbs had similar output, with Gibbs getting more touches. So now whenever you see Detroit getting in one of these shootouts, getting in one of these competitive games, that's going to skew the touches more to Gibbs. Gibbs still considered the RB1. And because of this David Montgomery outscoring Jahmyr Gibbs week in, week out, because of this phenomenon, I believe that Jahmyr Gibbs becomes a buy in all formats. Now, number 1, the top takeaway of the week. Dak Prescott is a game manager. That's pretty clear at this point. I have been riding this Dak Prescott roller coaster where he's overrated, he's underrated, he's overrated, he's underrated. I've always been contrarian with Dak Prescott. When he was overrated, I had him underrated. When he was underrated, I had him overrated. Now, I think I'm agreeing. I agree with the consensus finally on Dak. I'm with you. I give up. I give up. Just tie me up. I concede. Okay. Dak is overrated. He's not that good. He stole money from Dallas. 4 years, $240 million. That he just gets to put in a bank account and walk away. Hey. But he is a competent game manager. We've seen him have, seasons with 20-plus fantasy points a game. You can't just do that. That's not something that an average quarterback can do. He's above average. But he's above average like Jared Goff is above average. So what I believe is going to happen is that Dak will not live out this contract in Dallas. He's not going to be able to play it out. Dallas will ultimately trade him before the contract is up. Almost like an expiring contract in the NBA. and that he will end up on another team in 2 or 3 years. But it will be a struggle up until that point, and it will be just insufferable to listen to Dallas and Texas sports media talk about Dak Prescott. I mean, it will be one of, if not the most impressive feats of his career to at least play at an average level, play to his own career averages in the next couple of years, given this swirl of negativity he's going to have to play through. I feel bad for him, but at this point, Dak Prescott is what he is. And at some point down the road, he is going to return to the playoffs. Okay? So my big takeaway is that Dak Prescott will return to the playoffs eventually. Right, eventually, but it's not going to be, it can't be. It's not going to be with the Dallas Cowboys. Who is it going to be with, though? Right? So we got to find a team that's, oh, I got it. Yep, that's it. That's got to be it. I think that's got to be it. I can't say the Browns because I think the Browns are tanking for a quarterback in 2025. I predict that Dak Prescott will return to the playoffs in 2027 as the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the host, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.